Hey guys, it's me, Meteor, and welcome to another edition of What is Kirby Canon? This time we're talking about Necrodeus. A lot of this information comes from Deluxe in the form of hints. Considering just how random these hints are, it's almost impossible to record every single one of them, so expect to see a few screens from this text dump of Kirby Mass Attack that I found online. Necrodeus is of course the leader of a group called the Skull Gang. The Skull Gang consists of three groups. First up being the Skullies, which are just the lowly grunts. After 100 years, the Skullies mature into Skull Lions, which have horns and larger eyes. And finally we have the Skull Seer, who is the leader of the Skullies, not to be confused with the leader of the Skull Gang. According to Deluxe, Necrodeus originally targeted Popstar because Popstar is the brightest star in space. Isn't Popstar more of a planet? Then again, I guess all the planets in this game are named stars, so whatever. Regardless, this would make sense because, as Deluxe states, Necrodeus hates the light and wants to turn everything into darkness. As Necrodeus came to Popstar, he came closer than any other villain to straight out killing Kirby. As Kirby was asleep, Necrodeus ambushed him and turned him to 10 weaker Kirbys. He didn't just split Kirby into 4 equal power Kirbys and just run off afterward. He killed off each of the weaker Kirbys one by one until only one Kirby remained. The only reason why Kirby escaped was because Kirby's own heroic heart came out of his body and guided him away to safety. His heroic heart informs him that the only way to get back to his normal self is to get that staff back from Necrodeus. The Skullies, however, aren't just gonna sit around and wait for Kirby to get better. The Skullies regularly guard these metals, and even when Kirby clears out each area of its darkness, they attack Kirby and bring him back down to only one each time he enters a new area. Eventually the Kirbys have to face up against one last boss before entering Necrodeus' lair. This boss is of course named Skullord. With a name like that, you would think he'd be a pretty high rank among the Skullies. But as it turns out, he isn't a Skully at all. He was a pig that was transformed by the darkness of Necrodeus. After hearing this, some people conclude that Necrodeus is just another form of dark matter. Of course, that theory is highly unlikely. First of all, Necrodeus nor the Skull Gang were ever shown possessing anyone physically. The corruption takes place more so from the Skully's presence. This is evidenced by looking at the death of DDD. You don't see a Skully flying out of him, but you see a little blob of smoke come out of him, however. We've only ever seen the Skullies try to grab Kirby, and they certainly aren't trying to possess him, they're trying to outright kill him. Because of this, it looks like Necrodeus shares a lot more in common with the Grim Reaper than dark matter, which makes sense considering his name translated just means Death God. Getting back on topic, once Kirby rids the land of all the Skullies, the path to Necro Nebula is still blocked off. However, once Kirby gets all the rainbow medals, he's finally able to open a path and give chase to Necrodeus once and for all. Once the Kirbys reach the temple where the staff is, however, Necrodeus outsmarts Kirby once again, and instead of letting Kirby grab the staff and be on his way, he eats the staff so Kirby can't get it. Unfortunately for him, that just makes him a two-hands boss, and let's face it, Kirby's already had enough practice with those. It is really the only time we come face to face with the Skull Lions themselves though. As Necrodeus is defeated, the staff appears once more and Kirby can finally bring himself back to his original state. As Kirby was returning home from his long adventure, he looked at the stars which were shining brightly and thought, perhaps the stars wouldn't be as bright if not for darkness. That's actually a really deep thought for Kirby. However, even though Popstar was saved, Necrodeus may have had his hand making a mark in other places before this. If you remember back in Triple Deluxe, we were collecting sunstones to make the Dreamstalk bigger again, but why did they turn to stones in the first place? According to Meteor'z, one of the developers of Triple Deluxe said that the sun might have been turned to stones by someone who hated the light. The only one who was really referred to hating light was Necrodeus. And with that, we've talked about everything we needed to about Necrodeus. See you guys next time.